All right. Hey, Jill. Thanks for being here. Really excited to connect.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah. So the reason why I reached out is I've seen a lot of your stuff on LinkedIn. I feel like you just like really give great practical advice for SDRs and kind of anyone doing outbound. And so I wanted to get you on and just kind of and learn from you. And so would love to just like have you start off by telling me a little bit about your background, your experiences.
Yeah, so I have been in the SDR sales development space for 10 years, and I'm your typical misfit where went to college, got a degree, graduated, had no idea what I wanted to do. So I kind of found a sales role. I really loved it, and I knew early on this is the path that I want to do. And I've just, again, had extreme passion for it ever since. So I've done everything from inbound, outbound, small business, mid market, enterprise, international, you name it, I can check that box off. So I appreciate your kind words for my LinkedIn post because I really try to pay it forward as much as I can because it's a challenging job. Things that I did last year, you can't even do this year, let alone
Yeah.
10 years ago. So I really just try to share any insight that I can because that's what got me through some of the tough days is just learning from other folks that are, in the trenches prospecting with me.
Yeah. I heard something you said in a previous chat where you said like, this is like doing sales, especially outbound sales and SDR is like one of the only jobs where a 5% success rate can be considered good.
I know.
Where it's like,
It's so
you're
difficult.
failing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You said something that cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, it's a tough job and it's only gotten harder and that's why I just try to be really the light at the end of the tunnel for some people because a lot of people want to get out of this career where I want to help inspire people that just because it's evolving and changing, you're fully capable of doing it. You need your tribe. It takes a village, so you just have to lean on the right people and just overcome some of the challenges.
Yeah, totally. So right now you're co-head of sales development. You want to tell me a little bit about your current role and your company and a little bit about your motion, like just getting in the details of that. People who I talk to a lot of sort of founders, go-to-market leaders, so they love kind of geeking out on how the model works.
Yeah. So this is going to be a different perspective because prior to my job at Alti Sales, where I'm co-head of sales dev, I was just working for one company. Because right
Right.
now, what we do is it's twofold. We have a software product, but we also thrive with SDR outsourcing. So that's
Mm.
where I might have a couple selfish plugs here that I have learned so much these past couple months that I just wasn't exposed to in previous organizations. So yeah, we do everything for the full go-to-market strategy and motion based on the methodology just to support anybody from a startup to a really established business. So it's interesting because instead of again one company where I need to serve meetings for and into revenue, we're actually working with multiple. So it challenges me every day, but I've learned more than I ever could at just one regular company.
So tell me more about this. You said so with Alta Sales. Tell me a little bit more about the model
Yeah,
for SDRs specifically, sales development.
yeah, totally. So we have a book of clients where they come to us, whether they're a startup and they just don't know how to get outbound started,
Yeah.
or maybe they're an established company where they've hired and fired their SDR team twice because they just couldn't figure it out on their own. So they come to us because we're that well-oiled machine. It might take some folks years to figure out outbound, but instead you come to us and we're able to do it in months and just relieve the stress of what sales leaders go through in order to get pipeline that actually turns to revenue. We're not just here to set meetings. We're here to make sure that those meetings for our clients turn into revenue. So we are every step along the way. And again, any type of consulting that marketers need, sales professionals, ops, rev ops, again, you name it, we're able to support you in that.
That's interesting. So, and in your role as co-head of sales development, are you on like the delivery side, or are you getting clients for your company, or a little bit of
So
both?
great question. I particularly do a little bit of both. So
Okay.
I am responsible for certain clients, but we split it out because I do have a second co-head of sales development where we divide and conquer. So I actually do outbound for my company. So that way we can get users for our
Yeah.
software product, which is KPIs on steroids. It is a
For
you
sales, like sales KPIs.
Exactly. It is your best friend if you have sales reps hitting the phone and sending emails. I find clients for that. And then we also have outbound to find folks that need the SDR outsourcing and the consulting side. So there's two folds of the business, and that's just my slice that I'm responsible for.
Interesting. And is the idea that you're doing the sort of, in addition to your SaaS product, you're also doing sort of the outsource SDR? Is that because it allows you to sort of get the reps for the SaaS business, or because you have excess capacity? What's like the business thinking behind that?
And again, that's where we're different is we have, again, our own products that we sell, but we're effectively SDRs for organizations. So the one
Yeah.
client that I support, everything we talk about is their marketing solution. So it is as if this person almost doesn't even work at Alti Sales. I fully support them in the
Got
capacity
it.
they support the client. But then a few of my other SDRs, they're only focused on Alti Sales and trying to support our internal business. So that's where I shared. It's really
That's really
unique.
interesting. Yeah, that's
And it's
really
only because
interesting.
we do SDR outsourcing. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, so a lot of people who I talk to, they're like I said, they're founders, they're go-to-market leaders. So I'd like to just kind of, given this fact that I think you've seen a lot of reps when it comes to outbound, given that you're doing you're doing outbound for Alti Sales, but you're also working with other clients. Just want to kind of dive into that experience a little bit. One of the posts you said recently, which I thought was really interesting, was like the importance of experimentation when you're doing outbound, because like you just said earlier, like something that worked last year isn't going to work this year. And I thought that it was really cool that you're constantly trying new things. Like I thought it was funny where you're like sending pictures of like a special message written on a whiteboard as part of your outbound reach, and just different creative ideas like that. I want you to tell me a little bit about how you think about approaching experimentation in outbound, just generally, and then we can get into some details on it.
Yeah, so you have to stick out. It is really noisy out there. Think about the decision makers you're reaching out to. You're not the only person. And even from my own experience, my inbox is flooded. My LinkedIn is flooded, and it is
Yeah.
the same damn message. But if it's maybe a LinkedIn voice note, I'm left to curiosity. What does it say? There's no words. I can't read it and ignore it. I'll probably listen. And
Mm,
even in reference to the post that you were talking about, one of my reps, he cracks me up. So he supports an organization that helps drive traffic for CPG brands. So think of common products at Costco or on your
right.
grocery. So
Yeah.
he'll go off and he'll take a picture at Costco next to this huge, you know, I don't even know, like boulder of products, and he'll say, "Hey, use us, and you won't have 500 boxes here. Your customers will take them." And that's just a way to stand out
Interesting.
amongst the
Interesting.
crowd. Yeah. So, and then I even have another rep where he's more on the techie side, and it'll be like an avatar singing and dancing, and it's hilarious. Even if you don't get the meeting, people are just like, "Wow, like you made me laugh," and I don't get messages like that. So I think it's just not being scared to push boundaries in a professional way, because you have to remember, if you throw someone in a sequence and that's all you're doing, cool. 50 other people are doing it to the same person, and nobody cares.
How do you think about how do you think about experimentation versus optimizing kind of what's working? One of the things that I struggle with a lot when I'm doing experiments is you get a negative, like that didn't work. And the question is, like, did you do it enough times to really learn if it worked? Was there something else, like some other variable that you introduced that you didn't realize you introduced, and so you're kind of concluding the wrong thing, that this new tack didn't work? Just any principles or things that you think about, like how to experiment properly and draw the right conclusions in the context of outbound?
So this is going to be twofold, because I am a firm believer that you always have to optimize on what you're doing. Like to your point, you need the data. Was the sample size large enough? But what can you get better at so you're not reinventing the wheel every 5 minutes? You will go crazy. But on
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
hand, you should have a few sales plays running. So what we like to do is have one kind of generic outbound approach, in the sense that it could fit anybody in your ICP, and then we have personalization. So that's always
Mm,
good. So what are unique ideas? What else can we do to stand out so there's more of a purpose? What's giving that touch a high propensity target, as opposed to, something more generic? But again, use the data. That's what it comes down to, is something is working based on the data. And a lot of leaders, they mess this up because they might look at your SEP. Like I use outreach. Maybe they look at outreach and they're like, "Oh wow, like these replies are crushing it. Let's keep it going." Yeah, but what if your replies are unsubscribe? I don't care if your
right,
reply
right.
is 20%. You're getting garbage replies. You need to look at the positive replies. And
Yeah.
then that's where it's working. What are you doing here that you can replicate in another way to just enhance on that success? But again, have at least, three sales plays running. What's working there that now you can personalize, because maybe the second approach is, I'm going to go after your LinkedIn followers. Okay,
Right.
what's
Okay.
one thing that you're going to tackle over there? So again, you have to try new things, but don't give up on the optimization of what is already at play.
So you're kind of the way you like what you're saying is you kind of dual thread it. You're like on one thread we have a more traditional kind of sequences with some customization, but you're always in parallel running different types of experiments to see what new things might be getting traction or working. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, even A/B testing everything within those. So you're constantly iterating and constantly improving and striving for that next step, but you have to let your data do the talking because to your point, you can't be like, "Oh crap, like that was a bad reply." If it was just one, blame them. It probably wasn't you. It was just you caught somebody on a
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
day. Don't give up. But maybe if you get that reply over and over again, okay, maybe it's time to turn that template off and let's try
Yeah.
something else.
Interesting. So I mentioned that a lot of people who I talk to are founders, maybe early go to market leaders. So one of the things that I talk a lot about is doing founder sales. Is something that as a founder I wish I had done a lot earlier, as a way to sort of not necessarily build an outbound motion. I mean, it could be that reason, but mostly as a way to like get real data on whether or not what you're building is valuable. I think like a sales conversation as a founder is one of the best ways to test some of your business hypotheses. So let's say I don't have a ton of experience, doing outbound, but I need to I want to experiment with it, whether it's because I just need to get some people into my pipeline to kind of test some of my business hypotheses, like, can I close people? Is what I'm selling valuable? What are my biggest objections? What are the biggest concerns that I need to figure out with my product? Whatever it might be. Or maybe I'm a go-to-market leader at a startup, and we've tried a bunch of different things, and we want to try outbound as like the next thing. So I'm in this case. I want to try outbound. How would you think about where to start?
So a lot of founders do that. I think it's great because you're hitting the ground running and you're going to be that most passionate individual at your organization that cares about making it better. So that's what I appreciate because founder-led sales, you're going to hear the real objections. You're going to hear what should be on your roadmap, what to prioritize, and again, like you're going to be that frontline person of okay, this is what I need to change.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the other
Yeah.
side, founders can have different backgrounds. Are you the engineer, founder? Are you a sales founder? Because
Yeah.
I really believe that if you do not have outbound experience or a support system around you in terms of a data team, like do you have outreach, sales off, some type of tool to help keep your ducks in a row, it's going to be really difficult, maybe even impossible to move the needle. And that's because it's harder than just picking up the phone and dialing. And I do understand a lot of companies they don't give those resources. So I'm not here to knock and say like, oh, it's not going to work. But hey, wink,
Right.
wink. If you're a founder, you can find those resources, right? But
And
I
when you say move the needle, you're saying like you're not going to get enough volume, enough meetings set to actually learn what you need to learn, have an impact. Is that kind of what you mean by move the needle?
potentially because think about it. If you've never picked up the phone and done a cold call and you just get slammed with objections, how are you going to know what to say? Your first
Mm,
inclination might be, I hate to make the joke of Tommy Boy if you've seen the movie. He goes up to sell the car part, he gets nope, he goes, all right, bye. Because you don't know how to
yeah.
alleviate those concerns. You don't know what to say. So it's just, if you haven't been trained, then that's where I find it
Interesting.
could be difficult. Yeah.
Interesting. So
And it's
you're
not my
you're
fault,
saying
but like, if you told me to build a car, I'd be like, I've never done it. Like, please don't drive it because I'm not qualified. So that's what I meant by it.
so your argument, what you're saying is like, hey, outbound can be an awesome thing to test as a founder, but one of the risks is that your skills are so bad that like you're going to get false signals basically. You're going to basically maybe think that it's not working, and it's not necessarily because something foundational isn't working, but it's because you don't know how to handle objections, or you're getting you're not realizing that which is normal part of everyday selling. You're taking maybe the signal too strong, you're overfitting, that type of thing. Does that sound right?
So if I rephrase it, there is so much more that goes into inbound, or I'm sorry, excuse me, outbound, that I think would be difficult for a founder to handle being that account executive, being the
Yep.
sales, having the roadmap. And what I mean by that is, do you know your ICP? Sometimes you don't.
Mm,
Who's pulling your contact data to make sure it's accurate? Because if you have to spend hours in a data provider for half of that to bounce, you're going to be frustrated. Now you need to get on a demo. You're probably pissed off because you wasted your time. Nobody answered. Now your emails bounced. Your
yeah.
domain reputation got screwed up. Now your phone number is spam. But did you know to check your phone number is spam? There is so much that's
Mm,
going on. That's what I mean, where it could
I
be
see.
challenging. And that's not even talking about no, thank you, not interested. That's not even the objections.
That's
That's
even before you're getting there. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. It really, and that's what I'm here to scream from the rooftops is give outbound the love and support it needs because people take it too lightly, but then they get pissed that it fails. And it's like,
Mm,
what did you do? Did you do the
right.
10 proper steps or you cut corners and you just, did two things to get the job done? And again, not knocking founders, they don't have time.
Right.
Like, how do you
Right.
have time to be a full sales team, a full prospecting team, and a founder? That's why I feel like hire an SDR, have them get your meeting, so all you're focusing on are those really good sales conversations, so you
Mm.
get your company and your product better to that next level.
Interesting. I mean, that's a really interesting perspective. So you're saying like, you can get an SDR, they can set you, and then you're doing the thing that where you think the more the value is for the founder, which is having the actual conversations and not figuring out all the stuff before that to have those conversations.
I mean, I don't think it's that black and white. I just
Yeah.
think that you kind of have to pick your lanes and stay in it because you can't be in every lane.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting perspective. Um, so, what do you think? So, kind of this is like kind of dovetailing on that is like, what do you think are some of the mistakes that I might make if I'm like a gung ho founder, I want to try or maybe not even founder, like I said, it could be an early GTM, head of sales, head of go to market or whatever. Just kind of like we haven't figured out our motion, we're early, but we want to experiment with outbound either as a way to just kind of like manually sort of fill pipeline or experiment if the motion is right for my business. What are some mistakes that you think people are making? Like mistake I'm hearing you make is you're basically like getting in the weeds of a lot of things that someone with experience would know how to do, and so you're spending a lot of time on like low value signal that you could just outsource so you can get to the higher value signal from your business. Like that's one mistake I'm hearing as a possibility. What else comes to mind for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes that you could make, and a big thing is spray and pray. You just assume,
Mm,
let me fire off 1,000 emails and throw stuff at a wall, and you hope that it sticks. Like you're gonna burn your email domain in 2 seconds, and your number will be marked as spam if you are making dials on top of that. And it's
mm,
wild because you go on LinkedIn, you could probably find 50 posts that spray and pray is dead, yet people do it every single day. And that's,
mm,
even worse, some of these AI bots. All for AI that helps humans, but not to replace a human. All these set it and forget it, where you just type in, a really brief ICP, then they're going to slam people with messages. I get that every day, and guess what? Half of them are my competitors. I'm like,
oh
your
wow.
bot is trying to pitch me services, and now you look really silly because had you done a smidge of research, you're
You would
pitching
know
me
that I'm a competitor. Yeah,
like
exactly.
I should just take a screenshot and be like, "Hey, everyone, this is me versus them," because they're
Yeah.
trying to solicit me as a customer. But that's a big piece, and I kind of mentioned it before, but jumping in without being prepared. Like if you're early on, like you need to have a script, you need a role play, you need to know what to say for those tough objections because it's really easy to be that deer in headlight and be like, "Oh, like what do I say? What do I say?" But the more you rehearse it, it's like the sports. The more pitches you throw, the better your strike zone is, and also you learn not to give up easy. Like it's so easy to feel defeated, and those are a lot of the mistakes that people are going to make early on. And sometimes it's just you don't know better. So I'm not here,
Right. Right.
trying to make somebody feel bad if this is what you're doing, but it's just you need really thick skin for this, and there's just so many things that go into it. So you need to have a really good strategy because a strategy is just a dream, a wish, or an idea if you don't have anything to back it.
How do you define spray and pray? Like, what does that look like? Just to make it real for us.
Oh yeah. Like you're just blasting people. Like I'll make it up. Like maybe you have a product and your customer needs to work with Salesforce.
Yep.
I don't know how many customers I have, but it's a lot. That means you're going to email every single person. You're not going to care about how many. You'll blast too many people at the same domain, and now you're going to hit their firewall. But it's
Right.
really just you think there might be a chance, so you are just doing mass quantities of the same exact thing,
Mm.
and you're ruining your domain reputation. So again, you're just hoping that you get a reply because you think it might work, but it doesn't.
And this is really in the weeds, but I'm actually curious here. Is like domain reputation. So is this obviously there's the brand risk of like you said, is like you're just looking like you're not serious because you're hitting your competitors or you're hitting the same person 15 times, and but Is there also like domain reputation also is like spam filters have some kind of domain score? Is that how it works?
Yeah, and so I am not an expert in this, so I will try to
Yeah.
say this in my like pea brain layman terms, but I did work with a consulting company where they were about, reducing your likeliness of spam. And something that I learned that I had no idea is, and this is especially if you're B2C with Yahoo and Gmail and all the new regulations, but when you are a new domain, you don't have the health. So it's almost like credit. Like you need to
Interesting.
work on
Yeah.
having credit.
That people respond to your emails, read your emails. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Hmm. Hmm.
Delay. So here you think you sent an email, at noon. No, you sent that email at 8 and you're never going to know. So this is
Wow.
all in the consulting company. And also, you have to be, how many people are you hitting? You can't drop 30 people in this sequence with the same company domain because guess what? Their firewall is going to be like, hey, this seems a little fishy. And guess what? If people are in office, they're all probably laughing at you because they're going to be like, oh, they just sent me the same email. You're never going to get a reply.
Interesting. Interesting. That's fascinating. That's how it has not. I had not thought about that, but it makes a ton of sense. Kind of changing gears a little bit here. You did this post where you basically said like, hey, keep SDRs away from list building. Essentially, maybe I misread it, but that's what I kind of read. And I think the argument there is SDRs. What you're really paying them to do, what they're great at, is getting on the phone, writing emails, the customer interactions to try and set these meetings. They're not there to build lists, validate the list, clean up the list. So that to me sounded like you're making an argument about efficiency. Anything you'd add to that argument before we kind of ask some of the follow-ups on that?
Yeah, no, I have been posting about this pretty often because I would say this is one of my biggest lessons learned the past couple years because I used to be that manager where SDRs would
Mm.
sit
You would
in the
just say, hey,
day-to-day
go
guide.
build your lists.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't know better. I didn't think about having a data team or can marketing do it or even if you outsource it, there's always, somewhere that you should be able to get that support because think about it. If you have to hit your call volumes and based on your conversion rates and the KPIs that your organization is setting, do you want to sit for 2 hours in a data provider to try to find the right people? You're going to cut corners. That's where you're going to get bad titles. If your emails are bouncing, you don't have enough phone numbers, you are going to feel like crap. You're going to be burnt
Yeah.
out. You're going to have
Interesting.
morale. And then you're like, oh, now I'm not hitting quota. I'm not going to make a commission. And guess what? Tomorrow you got to do it all over again. They should come in, whatever tool you use for your sequencing, show up, log in, and execute tasks because that is what their talent is.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Interesting.
And guess what? If you're an SDR, you probably hate the data side. Like we have a data team where they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I would never be an SDR," and our SDRs are like, "Great, like I would never want to be on the data side." It's
Right.
just
Right.
you
Right.
would consider them one position.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of people do that. So I found that as like a really interesting argument. And so you think like having a sales data analyst or sales data team is kind of how you would recommend solving this problem. How have you seen it solved other ways?
No, absolutely. If I was looking for a new job tomorrow during my interview process, I would ask if I would have support from a prospecting team, data team, insert title here.
Right.
Otherwise, I would probably be like, you know what, this isn't the company for me because I wouldn't feel supported. That is how much I believe in
Mm.
having somebody pulling the prospects for you in an appropriate way for the SDR to have the most success. So I can't scream enough about the importance.
So yeah, what I'm hearing is like your philosophy around sales is it's efficiency argument. It's basically like get people to do what they're very good at, help them. It's a hard enough job as it is. Help them focus on being really great at that. Don't give them this secondary job that they don't have time to be good at anyway. Get someone who's really good at it. Are there any other kind of like efficiency mistakes you see happening when people are building outbound teams that you like? This drives me crazy. I want to pull my hair when I see this.
Yes. And before I go into that, just to chime in, I'm
Yeah.
saying I believe that a data team, if you have it, your SDRs can double quota. So if you're going to expect your SDRs to pull their own data, cut their quota in half because now half of their time is spent prospecting.
Yeah, makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense.
So that's again a big mistake is quota setting. But I would say the biggest mistake that I've seen over these past 10 years in terms of building pipeline that hits revenue is leadership, executive leadership. They don't understand what it takes. They don't understand what a true successful outbound motion means. So therefore, they don't have the right teams in place, the right processes. They don't want to
Mhm.
invest. Like I'm sure a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I'm never going to have a data pay salary for a data person." Okay, cut your SDR's team's quota in half because they don't believe in that.
Yeah.
And there's so much pressure that 100% needs to be on the SDR. It takes a team and a village. You can't expect somebody, especially entry level out of college.
Yeah,
You're probably
exactly.
paying them the lowest salary at your organization, yet you're putting the pressure on them to find every single dollar in pipeline because usually AEs don't want to go outbound. Some
Yeah,
do, most
exactly.
don't.
Yeah.
But how is that is so contradicting? Like it's just hypocrisy. How can you? Oh, like I get fired up. Like how can
You're
you
getting
expect
fired up. I
somebody
like it.
to do all of that? Like it's not fair for them. And then
Yeah.
again, like I said, you're going to burn them out. There's going to be low morale, and you're also there's a lot of gaslighting. It's so quick for people who don't know how to build an outbound motion to tell you that you're doing it wrong. And I don't
Hmm.
care. I'll tell a story. I had a leader, my end of year review, who did not get outbound. And the only feedback they had for me was treat my SDR team like factory workers.
Mm.
I would look really good to my CEO if I fired my top earners because we could save money and then just offshore their talent somewhere else. That was their feedback for my outbound team.
And this was this company an outbound, like that was the primary motion?
No, there was inbound as well,
Okay.
but it just goes to show you you don't have a clue about outbound.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, it's crazy either way, but I was gonna say it's
oh,
even more crazy if like all the revenue is dependent on these people that you're telling to treat like factory work or just like a factory. That's wild. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense you're saying. I also can imagine, and like you said, like if you have them do their own data, cut their quota in half. My guess is if you have a very good data person, they can probably support several SDRs. And so if you think about essentially you're getting double the production per salary of each SDR, you probably quickly pay for that data person. Does that sound right?
oh yeah, absolutely. Because if you can have that well-oiled machine where you have, say, 350 low end, 450 active prospects at one time, and if you can work, say, 100 accounts per month, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
Let the data team do that because now you're going to hustle through and find better pipeline. Because that's the thing I want to reiterate is it's quality over quantity in some sense because there's so many meeting settings out there. Like, don't put the pressure on, oh, go find 20 meetings. Where there's a will, there's a way. Focus on the really good meetings that you know are going to turn to
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like a lot of people forget is it's not meetings. You need revenue, so do it the right way.
Yeah, totally, 100%. So as we wrap up, just kind of last thing I wanted just to touch on briefly, which we mentioned a little bit, but like one of the things I hear you talk about a lot on LinkedIn is just like AI. It's a lot of people are talking about it across a lot of different domains. My one of the things I hear a lot about as it comes to sales is just like how is AI going to change sales? And one of the places I think people immediately go is outbound because you have AI bots that can write emails. I mean, I talked to one of our customers, someone who became a customer of Grain, like they were doing a startup for like an AI dialer, like an AI bot dialer. I was like, I don't know if I want to work with this company because I just philosophically don't like what they're working on. So yeah, so you see a lot of it, and I think a lot of people like where their heads initially go is outbound's dead, or at least it's not going to be viable. I've heard a lot of people argue that because it's just like all of the channels just can be flooded with garbage here. That's one extreme. I've heard other people argue that it's not going to be dead, but you just need to find more ways to stick out and be more human. Curious what your thoughts, where you land on some of these questions.
So, at the highest level, I support AI that enables humans to do their job better.
Yep.
So, if you can speed up my process with research or relevancy, anything that I can have a really productive conversation quicker, I am all for it. But as I said earlier, don't spray and pray me. Like, I can't tell you how many AI bot messages I get where it's like, Jill, do you want office furniture? Hey, you're a CEO. And I'm like, I am none of these things. Like, I don't know who you're using, but shut it down now. And I actually saw somebody do a trick where they manipulated their name on LinkedIn, but didn't make sense. So that way they knew if they were getting scraped and it was an AI bot, because if you actually took the time to know them, they had a real human name, but their LinkedIn had a funny name, and it was because it was spray and pray. So people are catching on, but it sticks out. It really does. And like, it's flooding inboxes. I when I posted the other day, sometimes I'm not even excited to see what I get. Like I
Yeah.
like to go to LinkedIn to help people, to learn,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's another person pitching me the same thing. And now I ask, I go, were you AI? I got the same message 3 times. People are like, oh yeah, it was. And I'm like, I called you out. I wish I didn't reply because I just gave you an email credit back. Like,
Yeah,
I should have
yeah,
not replied and you burned through your credit. But it's just, like I said, don't cut corners. It's gonna come back to bite you in the end. Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's so interesting. So there's another company, another grain company that's basically like a financial, some sort of fintech company, and I will regularly get outbound where it's like, "Hey, you're the CEO of." They're selling me like fintech products and stuff. I'm like, this is AI, or you're like really bad at your list. They have the wrong data teams, but I get that all the time, and I get invited to like ag tech conferences, and I'm sure this is all by AI. And so, yeah, I find it very annoying as the CEO of a business. It's just I get so hammered, but I actually respect it when it's clear someone did their homework and it's clear that they read some of my LinkedIn posts and they know what I'm thinking about right now. Because I do a lot of building in public and talking openly about what problems I'm dealing with. Like I have so much respect for that. So at least for me, the right message at the right time can spark a conversation, but it is tough. And so, like for example, I've started asking my assistant to like start screening out anything that looks like spam,
Yeah.
just because it's become such a problem. So I don't know. It'll be yeah. It's interesting. It's wild.
And that's the thing is, again, as decision makers, like we know. That's where I was saying, get the humans, train the humans, invest in the processes the right way, and you're gonna get the revenue. Using an AI bot that, yeah, it's gonna be cheaper than a human who requires, health insurance and all the things, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna work. And that's again, you're gonna get your reputation ruined, and it also puts a bad taste in somebody's mouth because outbound, it doesn't have to be a sale today. But what if it's in 6 months? What if it's in a year?
Right.
You want to
Right.
be like, you know what? Like, I remember Jeff. He was the man, and he made me feel good. So I'll revisit that conversation. Not "Oh, you were the AI bot and you were cheating."
Yeah. Exactly. I love it. Those are great thoughts. So as we wrap up, just where can people find you if they want to learn more or work with you?
Say, hit me up on LinkedIn. I log on every single day. I'm there. Don't send me an AI
Yeah.
message,
Yeah.
but
Don't add her to your AI outbound campaign.
no. But I mean, if you mention that you listened to this, if there was anything that I can help with, I love to pay it forward as much as my busy calendar allows for some free time. But yeah, I think what am I? I'm just Jill Bruno. It's bad. I always forget. Am I Jill or Jillian?
You're Jill.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
Jill
Jill,
Bruno.
Jill,
Yeah.
Jill. I'm only Jillian if I'm in trouble with my mom. So Jill Bruno. But
Amazing.
yeah, definitely connect with me and send me a note. I promise I'll answer.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for the time. It's very insightful, and hope to keep in touch.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Awesome.